There is a moment in every person's life that decides everything. The problem is, most people don't even notice it. It doesn't look important. It doesn't feel life-changing. And it definitely doesn't come with a warning. It just happens. Someone says something you don't like. Something doesn't go your way. You feel disrespected, ignored, or challenged, and before you even realize it, you react. You speak too fast. You respond emotionally. You let something small turn into something bigger. And then, later, when everything settles down, does you think, why did I say that? Why did I react like that? I should have handled that differently. But by then, it's already done. The damage is done. The impression is made. The moment is gone. And this, right here, is how most people slowly lose control of their lives. Not in big dramatic ways, but in small repeated reactions. If you really think about it, your life is not built on major decisions. It's built on tiny moments. Moments where you either stay calm or lose control. Moments where you either think or react. Moments where you either choose your behavior or let your emotions choose it for you. And most people, they don't choose. They react automatically, unconsciously, predictably. And the worst part is, they think this is normal. They think, this is just who I am. I have a short temper. I can't help it. But that's not true. You're not reacting because you're weak. You're reacting because your mind has never been trained. Your brain is not designed for calm, logical thinking. It's designed for survival. Thousands of years ago, reacting quickly meant staying alive. If you hesitated, you died. If you didn't react fast, you were in danger. So your brain evolved to do one thing extremely well. React instantly. But here's the problem. You're not living in that world anymore. There are no predators chasing you. No life or death situations every day. But your brain? It still behaves like there are. A simple comment feels like an attack. A disagreement feels like a threat. A mistake feels like failure. So your brain reacts. Fast, emotional, unfiltered. And every time you let it do that, you reinforce the habit. You teach your mind. This is how I respond. And slowly, without realizing it, that becomes your identity. Now imagine this. You're in a conversation with someone. Everything is normal until they say something that hits you the wrong way. It's not even a big insult. It's subtle, but it touches your ego. Instantly your body reacts. Your heart rate increases. Your thoughts start racing. You feel that internal pressure building up. And your mind starts pushing you. Say something. Don't let that slide. Respond right now. That urge feels strong, almost uncontrollable. And most people, they give in. They react immediately. They speak emotionally. They try to defend themselves. They try to win the moment. And for a second, it feels good. It feels like control. But it's not. It's the opposite. It's a loss of control. Because you didn't choose that reaction. It happened to you. Now here's where everything changes. There is a small gap, a tiny space, between what happens and how you respond. Most people never see it. It's too fast, too subtle. But it's there, and inside that gap is your power. This is what philosophers like Marcus Aurelius understood deeply. He didn't say life would be easy. He didn't say people would always treat you well. What he said was something far more powerful. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And that single idea, if you truly understand it, can change everything. Let's go back to that same situation. Someone says something that triggers you, but this time, instead of reacting instantly, you pause, just for a few seconds. You don't speak immediately. You don't let the emotion take over. You simply observe. You notice what you're feeling. You recognize the anger, the tension, the urge to react. But instead of acting on it, you step back mentally. And in that moment, something incredible happens. You break the pattern. You stop the automatic reaction. And for the first time, you choose. You might decide not to respond at all. You might respond calmly. You might shift the conversation. You might simply let it go. But whatever you do, it's intentional. It's controlled. It's yours. And that is power. Not loud reactions. Not emotional outbursts, but quiet control. Most people think strength means reacting quickly. They think, if I don't respond immediately, I look weak. But the truth is the opposite. Anyone can react. It takes no effort, no discipline, no control. But to stay calm when you're triggered, to think clearly when emotions rise, to choose your response instead of following your impulse, that takes strength, real strength. Now here's something most people don't realize. Your reactions are not random. They follow patterns. You react to the same types of situations again and again. Disrespect, criticism, failure, rejection. Every time one of these appears, your mind follows the same script. Same thoughts, same emotions, same reaction. And because it feels automatic, you think it's uncontrollable. But it's not. It's just unexamined. The moment you start paying attention, the moment you start noticing these patterns, you gain awareness. And awareness is the first step to control. Think about it. If you know exactly what triggers you, you can prepare for it. If you know how your mind reacts, you can interrupt it. If you can interrupt it, you can change it. And once you start changing it, everything begins to shift. Your conversations improve. Your decisions become clearer. Your relationships become stronger. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And this is where most people fail. Not because they're incapable, but because they never train this skill. They expect themselves to stay calm without ever practicing calmness. They expect control without building awareness. They want to respond better, but they never slow down enough to actually do it. Control is not something you have. It's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice, reaction by reaction. And once you start building it, you start noticing something powerful. Situations that used to trigger you don't affect you the same way anymore. Things that used to make you angry feel smaller. Moments that once controlled you now feel manageable. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. And this is just the beginning. Because once you understand how to pause, once you start recognizing your patterns, once you begin to control your responses, you unlock something deeper. Something most people never experience. A level of calm, clarity, and control that doesn't depend on the world around you. Now here's where things start to get uncomfortable, because once you begin to understand your reactions, once you start noticing your patterns, you realize something most people never want to admit. You are being controlled, not physically, not obviously, but psychologically. Think about it. How easy is it for someone to trigger you? One comment, one tone, one small act of disrespect, and suddenly your mood changes. Your energy shifts. Your behavior changes. That means something very important. Other people can control your state, without touching you. And the moment someone can control your emotions, they control you. This is why reacting is dangerous, not just because of the consequences, but because it makes you predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. If someone knows what makes you angry, they can make you angry. If someone knows what hurts your ego, they can control your reactions. If someone knows how to get a response out of you, they own the situation. Now, most people never think about this. They believe they're just expressing themselves. They think they're being honest, real, authentic. But what they're actually doing is revealing their weaknesses. Every reaction is information. Every emotional response is a signal. It tells the world, this is how you can control me. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine someone who doesn't react easily. Someone who stays calm under pressure. Someone who doesn't give immediate emotional responses. What happens? People can't read them. People can't predict them. People can't control them. And that is power. This is what Stoic philosophy was really about. Not just peace, not just calmness, but inner independence. A state where nothing external can control your internal world. Let's take this deeper. There is a part of you that constantly pulls you toward reaction. It whispers things like, say something back. Don't let that slide. You look weak if you stay silent. That voice is your ego. Your ego is not evil, but it is dangerous if you don't understand it. Because your ego doesn't want control. It wants validation. It wants to feel important. It wants to win every moment, even when winning costs you everything. Think about how many times you reacted. Not because it was the right thing to do, but because your ego couldn't stay quiet. You wanted to prove something. You wanted to defend your image. You wanted to show you're not weak. And in doing that, you lost control. Here's the truth most people avoid. Ego makes you react. Awareness makes you respond. Now imagine a situation. Someone challenges you in front of others. Your ego immediately sees this as a threat. It tells you, if you don't respond right now, you lose respect. So you react. You argue. You defend. You escalate. But what actually happens? You look emotional. You look unstable. You look reactive. And instead of gaining respect, you lose it. Now imagine the same situation, but you stay calm. You listen. You don't interrupt. You respond slowly, clearly, and without emotion. What happens now? People see control. They see confidence. They see strength. Not loud strength, but quiet, dangerous strength. And here's something very few people understand. Calmness is intimidating, not because it's aggressive, but because it's unpredictable. A reactive person is easy to handle. You know how they'll respond. You know how to trigger them. You know how to control the situation. But a calm person, you don't know what they'll do. You can't read them easily. You can't provoke them, and that creates pressure. This is why the ability to respond instead of react is not just a self-improvement skill. It's a strategic advantage in conversations, in relationships, in life. Now let's go deeper into something even more important. Why do reactions feel so strong?
Why is it so hard to stay calm?
Because reactions give you an illusion of control. When you react,
You feel powerful for a moment.
you feel like you're taking action. You feel like you're defending yourself. But it's an illusion, because real control is not about doing something fast. It's about doing the right thing. And the right thing almost always requires slowing down. Let's go back to a simple situation. You receive a message that annoys you. Maybe it's disrespectful. Maybe it's unfair. Your first instinct? Reply immediately. Say what you feel. Clear things up. But what happens if you don't? What happens if you wait? If you step back? If you calm down? If you think clearly? You often realize something surprising. It wasn't worth reacting to. This is one of the most powerful realizations you can have. Not everything deserves a reaction. Most people react to everything. Every comment, every opinion, every situation. And because of that, they are always emotionally exhausted, always drained, always affected. But once you learn to respond instead of react, you become selective. You choose what deserves your energy. You choose what matters. And everything else, you let it go. And that's when your life starts to feel different. Lighter, clearer, more controlled. Now here's where it gets even deeper. Every reaction you avoid builds discipline. Every time you pause, you strengthen control. Every time you choose your response, you rewire your mind, because your brain learns from repetition. If you keep reacting, it becomes your default. If you start responding, that becomes your identity. And slowly, you become someone different. Someone who doesn't get triggered easily. Someone who doesn't lose control in pressure. Someone who thinks before acting. And this kind of person is rare. Because most people never train their mind. They train their body. They train their skills. They train their careers. But they never train their reactions. And that's why they struggle. Not because life is hard, but because they are reactive. Now think about this carefully. What would your life look like if nothing could trigger you easily? If no comment could shake you? If no situation could control your emotions? How different would your decisions be? How different would your relationships be? How different would you feel daily? That's what responding instead of reacting gives you. Not perfection, not a stress-free life, but control. And control changes everything. But there's still one final layer most people don't understand. A layer that separates people who try to stay calm from people who are truly unshakable. Now we reach the part most people never get to, not because it's complicated, but because it requires something most people avoid: consistency. Because understanding something once doesn't change you. Hearing a powerful idea doesn't transform you. Even realizing that you react too much is not enough. Real change begins when you practice it, again and again and again, until it becomes who you are. Most people listen to ideas like this, and for a moment they feel motivated. They think, from now on I'll stay calm. I won't react like before. I'll control myself. But then life happens. A stressful day, a difficult person, an unexpected problem. And in that moment, they forget everything. They go back to reacting, back to old patterns, back to the same cycle. This is why most people never change. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they don't practice it long enough. So if you really want to become someone who responds instead of reacts, you need to understand this. This is not a mindset. This is training. Just like you train your body, you have to train your mind. Daily, consistently, intentionally. And the training is simple, but not easy. It starts with awareness. Every single day, start observing yourself. Notice when you get triggered. Notice what makes you react. Notice how quickly your mind tries to take control. At first, you won't be able to stop it. You'll still react. You'll still lose control. And that's okay, because the goal in the beginning is not perfection. It's awareness. Because once you start noticing, you create distance. And that distance is the beginning of control. Then comes the next step, interrupting the reaction. Next time something triggers you, try to delay your response, even if it's just for a few seconds. Don't reply immediately. Don't speak instantly. Just pause. Take a breath. Let the emotion rise. And then let it settle. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will resist. It will push you to react. It will tell you, say something now. Don't wait. Don't stay silent. But that discomfort is the training, because every time you resist that urge, you get stronger. Every time you choose not to react, you build control. Every time you pause, you rewire your mind, and slowly, something starts to change. Situations that used to trigger you instantly no longer have the same effect. Things that used to make you angry start to feel smaller. Moments that once controlled you start to feel manageable. Not because life became easier, but because you became different. Now here's something even deeper. At a certain point, this stops being something you do and becomes who you are. You stop forcing yourself to stay calm, because calmness becomes natural. You stop trying not to react, because reacting no longer feels right. You stop overthinking your responses, because clarity becomes automatic. And this is where true power begins. Because now, you are no longer controlled by the outside world. Think about how rare that is. Most people are controlled by everything. By opinions, by situations, by emotions, by other people's behavior. But when you reach this level, none of that controls you anymore. Someone disrespects you, you stay calm. Not because you're weak, but because you choose not to give it power. Something goes wrong, you stay focused. Not because you don't care, but because you know reacting won't help. Life becomes unpredictable. You stay steady, not because everything is perfect, but because your mind is. And this is what it means to be unshakable. Not that nothing affects you, but that nothing controls you. Now let's go even deeper, because there is one final shift that separates people who are calm from people who are truly powerful. Most people think control means suppressing emotions, but that's not true. Suppressing emotions means you feel something, but you push it down. You ignore it. You pretend it's not there, but that doesn't work. Because suppressed emotions don't disappear. They build up, and eventually, they explode. The true control is different. True control means you feel everything, but you are not controlled by it. You feel anger, but you don't act on it. You feel frustration, but you don't let it guide you. You feel pressure, but you stay clear. This is emotional mastery. And this is what Stoic philosophy was really about. Not becoming emotionless, but becoming disciplined with your emotions. And once you reach this level, life becomes very different. You stop reacting to everything. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop being pulled into unnecessary conflicts. Instead, you become selective. You choose your battles. You choose your words. You choose your actions. And because of that, everything improves. Your relationships become stronger because you don't react emotionally. Your decisions become better because you think clearly. Your mind becomes calmer because you're not constantly triggered. And most importantly, you feel in control. Now think about this for a moment. What would your life look like If nothing could easily disturb your peace, if no small comment could ruin your mood, if no situation could push you into reaction, how much energy would you save? How much clarity would you gain? How much stronger would you feel? That is the power of responding instead of reacting, and it's available to you in every single moment, because every moment gives you a choice between impulse and control, a choice between reaction and response, a choice between being controlled or being in control. And the more you choose control, the more it becomes who you are, until one day you don't even think about it anymore. You simply are calm, clear, controlled. And at that point, you've done something most people never will. You've mastered yourself. At the end of your life, you won't remember every situation. You won't remember every argument. You won't remember every problem, but you will remember the kind of person you became. Were you someone who reacted to everything? Or someone who chose their responses carefully? Were you controlled by your emotions? Or did you control them? Because in the end, your life is not defined by what happened to you. It is defined by how you responded. So the next time life tests you, and it will, pause, take a breath. Think and choose your response carefully, because in that moment, you are not just choosing what to do, you are choosing who you become.